Hello everybody, my name is Ben. Welcome to Ben's Blades. This is the very first video in a brand new YouTube channel focusing on folding knives, of course. I'll talk more about who I am and what I'm doing here in later videos as the channel progresses. In the meantime, I want to take this apart. This is a Kershaw Bel Air. This knife was initially released by Kershaw last year in 2024. And I immediately decided I just had to have it, and I picked up one right away. This is a fairly early production version of the Kershaw Bel Air. In the original configuration, it's got a black washed Magna Cut blade in just over 3 inches, about 3.1 inches, I think. The aluminum scale is described by Kershaw as being nickel Cerakoted, but to me, it just looks like a bright tan. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's some scarring on it, some scratching on the handle. This is a user. It got used a lot. It's not been in my rotation a lot lately, but initially I carried this for a while, quite a long time. So I think I want to take this apart. I have never taken apart a crossbar lock knife before. I have taken apart frame lock knives all the time. A lot of zero tolerance knives, a lot of Hinderer knives. I carry a Hinderer XM18 right now pretty religiously. So I take those apart all the time. But never a crossbar lock knife, never a Benchmade, never a Hogue, nothing. So the first time that I'm taking apart a crossbar lock knife is going to be on camera with you here today. This one, I almost wonder if it's having issues with the bearings, because it sounds a little rough. It almost sounds like there's been indentions put into the metal from the bearings. Let me just close it and set it up to the microphone so you can hear what it sounds like. And all I'm doing is this. So, conversely, here is a much newer one that I bought just like a month ago. And this one is buttery smooth and dead silent. Listen. You probably don't hear anything. Now, some of it could be because this knife came out of the box oiled, and this knife came out of the box bone dry. I vividly remember getting this out of the box, and it sounded like this right away. So, maybe they've cleaned up their machining and quality control a little bit before they release this one, because this one just seems like really just a little rough in the action. Let's talk about other ways it's behaving. It is about as drop shutty as it is possible to be. Came right out of the box, just drop shutty as hell. It has no side to side or up and down blade play. And as far as centering, we are looking at a blade centering that is noticeably favoring the right side of the knife. If I can get that to focus. Yeah, the right side of the knife. So my goal is to take it apart and clean it up, and then I want to see if I can get the blade back to center. I might even put some Skiff washers in there. If I crack it open and it looks like the washers in it could be upgraded, then I'm going to put some Skiff, the bearings. If it looks like the bearings could be upgraded, then I'm going to put some more substantial bearings from Skiff Workshop in there. This knife is roughly the size of a Benchmade bug out. That's kind of what it was intended to compete with. So it's a 20 CV bug out right there. All right, let's go ahead and try to take this apart. I think I need a T8. So let's try a T8 and see if that's going to fit in here. Yeah. So I'm going to take the little mini ratchet I've got from Mac Tools, and we're going to try to take this thing apart. Do I really want to do this right now? Do I seriously want to try to take apart a crossbar lock for the first time in my life on camera for the whole world to see? and look like an idiot. Whatever, let's go. We're doing it. Hold on to your blades. Okay, now that I got it broke loose, I will switch to the CountyComm titanium driver. We'll get it the rest of the way out. Stick that right there. And it looks like we have full liners, so that should make it a bit easier to take it apart. Now I have a tendency to strip out these T6 bits, and so I have a bunch of extra ones just laying around, and I do believe these are T6. I am almost 100% positive. Here we go. Looks like we got blue Loctite dust. Funny thing about me is I practically never use Loctite on my knives unless it's a screw that like badly needs it. Like, are we spinning freely? Yeah, we are spinning. Let me see if I can just stick my thumb in there. No, it doesn't look like I can. I wonder if I can just take a piece of cloth and just bear down on that and hold it in place. No, that is going to spin freely by the looks of it. Yeah, that is free spinning. Okay, well, let's take a break, and I'm going to figure out how to break that loose. Let me try to just take this whole side off, this whole scale off, and maybe I can just grip on it from the other side. No, because that's free spinning too. It's actually spinning the pocket screw. If I can get that to focus. There we go. You can actually see that it's spinning the pocket screw from the other end. So grab another T6 and this Wera stubby driver, and I'm going to hold this in. Just going to hold this in place right there to keep it locked up, and then try this again. Oh, I'm stripping the screw. I hadn't wanted to take the pocket clip out, but it looks like I kind of have to. So there's that. And now I think I'm right back to square one where I have a spinning standoff. Yep, I do. So let me try this side again. It's just going to spin. Let me see if that did anything. All right, I got one more thing I can try. What I'm going to try to do is roll up a piece of painter's tape with the sticky side face out and shove it down in there just as hard as I can to try to get it to stop spinning. And we'll see what this does. It is more loose than it was. So let me see if I can just shove that piece of tape down in there just really tight and put just some really hard pressure on it. Because once it breaks loose from the Loctite, it shouldn't be that hard to unscrew it. Let me try it with the screw on this side and see if that will work or not. Now, that's not working either. That's the last idea I had. So unfortunately, it looks like I'm literally going to have to get off the table, leave the house, go to a hardware store, and pick up a set of needle nose pliers that are small enough to fit in here. So I guess I will pause the video and we will be right back. Alrighty then. A lot just happened in that half second of TV static. I picked up this pair of Knipex needle nose pliers. I got these off of Amazon, actually. I live about 4 blocks from a major Amazon distribution center, so I was able to get these with free early morning overnight shipping. This is actually being filmed early the next morning, the day after I started this. In the meantime, while I was waiting for these to show up, I went ahead and filmed a Hogue Deca disassembly where I took apart a polymer framed Hogue Deca and installed these current red RGT G10 scales. That video was a mess. Every important lesson that I should have learned from this, I ended up learning from this. So this video will be out sometime after this one. Be prepared for it to be a real mess because I learned a bunch of stuff from that video. I learned how not to try to put a crossbar lock knife back together because I put it back together wrong. Not once, not even twice, but 4 times I put it back together incorrectly and had to start over. And I also learned that I need to do my disassembly like right here, dead center on screen, because a lot of it's being done way down here or even off camera. It's a little late for that with this video, but I'm going to try to finish out this disassembly and cleaning, doing it more on screen so that it is easier to see. Now, I need some painter's tape. So I can wrap it around these pliers. And then we are hopefully going to grab onto this thing mercilessly and get these screws out. Okay, I need this bit driver. Actually, I'm thinking I'm going to need more torque, so let's use this. This is a T6. Alright, I'm hoping not to strip this out. We'll see how it goes. I'm just going to grip onto it as tight as I can. I'm just trying to grip this in such a way where it'll stay put. I maybe should have got a pair of vice grips, but I couldn't find any that were this thin and would fit into that tight of a space. And right now it's looking like I might not be able to grip these tight enough to get them to hold the the standoff in place. There we go. Finally. I really had to like bear down on that to the point where I was kind of bending the the pliers a little bit, and look at that. It like stripped the if I can get that to focus, it stripped the tape kind of right off. But we did break loose the screw, so let's get this the rest of the way out if we can. It's still like free spinning in there, but we got it broken loose enough that we can get the screw out finally. They used a pretty serious amount of Loctite on that from the looks of it. All right. That's one. Now we have to do the other one. That was crazy tight. I'm really kind of surprised how freaking tight that was in there. All right, let me see if I can get this one. All right, there we go. So, goodness, that was tight. This thing did not want to come apart. The pivot should come out without a lot of fuss. I'm going to take this crossbar lock disassembly tool and just push that out. And there we have our blade and our bearings. It looks like not only do we have bearings, but we actually have metal spacers in there too. Yeah, there's these teeny tiny metal spacers in there with the blade. So was there just multiples of them? Oh, they're on. It's interesting, these spacers, there's like 4 of them. And it looks like that's actually the surface on either side that the bearings are riding on, which is interesting. If I can pick this up. Not sure if that's wanting to focus, but it looks like there are indentions in these metal spacers. That would explain why the action was really nasty and sounded like rough at the beginning of the video. That's actually pretty crazy. All right. Well, let's take this apart the rest of the way and get it cleaned up. That's very interesting. I didn't expect there to be spacers in there like that were the surface that the bearings are up against. That's really, really interesting. Now, I want to compare the washers that came with it, not the washers, the bearings, to the Skiff bearings that I purchased for it. These are the bearings that you'll need. Rocket glide rings, apparently. And these actually look like they are a great deal thicker in fact they are, a great deal thicker than the ones that come in it. You might not be able to see that, but the Skiff bearings are much thicker than the stock bearings that come in the knife, and so I gotta guess that you don't need these spacers anymore. So I think I'm gonna try to put it back together without them. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, we gotta get this over with. So let's do some Slip 2000 725. This is what I use to clean most knives with. This is actually 99% alcohol. I only use that like on bearings. The rest of the knife gets a gun cleaner taken to it. I just think it's more effective in getting grime and buildup off of the knife. Excuse me. And look at the inside of this scale. Look how dirty that is. That's kind of crazy. You know, the Hogue Deca, the video that I did while I was waiting for the pliers, that video was a lot easier to take it apart. It was a pain in the ass to put it back together because at the time I didn't know how to put a crossbar lock knife back together. Well, now I kind of do. So this one should hopefully be finished without a lot of trouble. But it's interesting that it really seems like Kershaw never intended for this knife to be taken apart. I'm sure Hogue never did either, but Kershaw really didn't build this thing like it was ever meant to be taken apart, is the impression that I'm getting. Did I just lose the blade stop pin? I think I did. And I found it just that fast. Didn't even have to cut the footage. Okay. Now, let's get rid of this and get a new one. 725. That was really interesting how it came with spacers on both sides that were the, you know, effectively the running surface for the bearings. I really didn't expect it to have that second. I didn't expect it to have one set of spacers, let alone two. So, and I don't know that I've seen any Kershaw Bel Air disassembly videos. I mean, admittedly, I haven't looked that hard, but I did poke around on YouTube a little bit, and I didn't see much. There is your Kershaw Bel Air Magna Cut blade, for whatever that's worth. Okay, now here comes the fun part, getting this damn thing back together. So I think I'm going to start with this. I'm actually going to take, I have some ALG Go Juice that's in this bottle right here. And I think I'm going to put just a little bit around here so the bearings have something to roll on that's a little slicker. I'm also going to do it with this one. This stuff comes out more generously than I would want, but there's really not much I can do about it. Okay, what is the best way to do this before I spend an hour doing it 18 different incorrect ways. Put the blade stop pin back in. Put the standoff back in. Put the second standoff back in. And then probably the best way to do it is to just get the blade in there and shove them back together. And then put the crossbar lock back in with the Omega springs. So I think that's what I'm going to try to do. Let me use this this crossbar lock disassembly tool. Man, my camera has a tough time focusing. Just stick that in there so that stuff will hold into place. And now, I'm trying to do this on camera the best I can. I'm actually going to take, well, let me go ahead and put a little bit of oil on either side of this blade. Just because, why not? That'll be plenty. Alright, let's get this back in there. Okay, now probably the best thing to do is to put the Skiff bearing down. There are significantly more balls in this bearing than there are in the stock one. This one has 15 balls. Frankly, I wish I had that many balls. My girlfriend would love that. But such as it is, I have a lot more to compensate for. Okay, and that looks like it. I mean, just getting it together like it is, it does feel like it kind of fits. It is a little smoother. Now, probably the best thing to do is to put the scale on. One thing that I really have never liked about Kershaw knives is their stubborn insistence on doing black-washed blades with aluminum handles. It's just like, why? Why can't they do a stonewash blade with raw steel or titanium parts and G10 or micarta like everybody else? Like seriously, why do they have to do aluminum and black parts on just everything? I'm taking this back out because I'm realizing pretty quickly that it's probably better to get the crossbar lock and the Omega springs back in there before I get too crazy putting the scales back on. And again, I'm trying to do this more towards the middle so that you can see what I'm doing. That just might be awkward, might take some getting used to. Okay. Get these springs back in, get them tight against the knife, and I think now I can safely turn this over. I'm not going to take the tool out because the pivot needs to go in. Okay. Now close this damn thing. And the tool actually needs to be in the knife the other way, which I did. I made that stupid mistake with the Hogue Deca too. You would think I would learn. Okay. Now, put the scale back on and get the pivot back through. So this doesn't have a flat side like a Benchmade or the Hogue. The way this is captured is the fact that the head is captured in the aluminum scale. So that's what makes it non-free spinning, which is still great. Okay, get in there. Oh boy, this might be harder than I thought. Okay, let's take that out. Okay, I'm going to need to do this more slowly to ensure that it's actually going to go in properly. It refuses to go in past a certain point, which is really interesting. Let me open it slightly and see. That was the trick that I learned the last time with the Hogue Deca, is that you want the blade partway open. You don't want it all the way open or all the way closed. For those of you who have never taken apart a crossbar lock knife before, I learned that the hard way in the next video, and you'll see it, where you can't get the pivot in, certainly not very easily, with the blade all the way open or all the way closed. Like, I just couldn't do it. So, there we go. We got the Kershaw Bel Air. Oh, whoa, that is crazy. Look at this. The blade is pretty much back to center. If I squeeze it tight, without even the screws even being in, the blade is dead center, which it was not originally. And listen to that action. Like, it doesn't have that rattle or that roughness anymore. So I think that made a world of difference. All right. Before something else fucking goes wrong, let's get this pivot screw back in. I think I need a T8. Yeah. So if you're ever trying to take this apart to clean it out or do maintenance on it, understand that those standoffs are going to be your worst nightmare. Okay, now the body screws. Oh, my dumbass. Using a T8 on a T6. I was like, why won't it go in? That's what she said. Oh, and now it's free spinning and I can't get the screw all the way in. Okay. I wonder if I ought to try to get all that Loctite off of the screw. Let's see if that'll make a difference. So I'll be honest with you, you know, these videos are going to be more organic. I'm not here to get you in and out in the space of 10 minutes. Like, if you're here to learn something, then you're going to stick around. If you got places to be, then this is not the channel for you. Because, yeah, I might fast forward or skip over stuff that's, like, really unnecessary. But, you know, I'm not going to try to rush through this just to save you time. Like, if you're still here at this point, it's because you want to know how this gets done. And I've got something to offer for that. What I think I need is another T6, and I'm going to try to screw this down so that both will tighten up because it's free spinning. So I have a feeling like every time I want to take one of these knives apart, it's going to be a major league pain in the dick because of these damn free spinning standoffs. Okay, let's put the pocket clip back on. I think that's probably the next thing to do. Are those two different size screws? It doesn't look like it. For a second I thought they were because one of them is recessed in case you want to swap the pocket clip to the other side, but it doesn't look to me like one screw is longer than the other. And I'm trying to do this more in the middle of the screen. It's harder for me to see it when I do it like in the middle of the screen where you can see it because I wear glasses, and so if I do it out here, I can't really see what I'm doing, but then if I do it down here, like, you can't see it. So that's something I'm just going to have to learn as I go. And then, of course, we have a free spinning standoff again. So I'm going to have to tighten that down with the two T6 heads. Yeah, it's not going to go in any further without resistance. So let's do this. Yeah, those screws are tight in there. It's kind of crazy how tight those screws are. All right, now what kind of action do we got? We're still not quite centered. We're back to where we were. We're kind of favoring the right side of the knife. But it's not rubbing. Like, it's not quite dead center, but, you know, I got this Kershaw, I believe I got this at GP Knives, and at the time it wasn't quite as discounted as it is now, so I think I paid $169 for it. Now I think it's like $149.99. I paid, yeah, $169.99 for this. And, you know, it's a Kershaw knife. What do you expect? So, I mean, when I kind of nudge the blade a little bit, it goes closer to center. Let me see. Where's that little wrench thing that I used to center this in the second video? Let me see if I can find that. Maybe we can get this thing back to center. Okay, so I have this tiny little, like, wrench thing. I don't even know where I got this. It probably came from something I got in the mail that had to be assembled, and I used it. I'm talking about all this like it already happened, but in the next video you'll see me use this to center this guy. And so I want to see if I can center it with this one. And so let's take the T8, and I'm wondering if I can, like, loosen this up a bit and then loosen the body screws on this side. Like I said, this is kind of the like I said, again, I'm talking about this stuff like it already happened. Like, I'm talking about references I made in a future video that hasn't happened yet because I'm goofy. This is supposed to be kind of the Metal Complex or Nick Shabazz way of doing it, where you back everything out and wedge something in there and then tighten everything down just about as tight as you can get it, and then you pull your thing out and you adjust it from there. And so we'll see if we can get this thing closer to center. If not, I'm honestly not worried about it. This is a user. This is a beater knife. This is one of those knives that, you know, I could lose it going through TSA or lose it doing something else, and or, you know, break. I could break this knife and it wouldn't bother me that much. But I mean, like, where's the other one? The other one is dead center on this newer one. This one I bought just only like a couple of months ago. Versus this one is from the initial production run. So it might be just that it doesn't go to center. And on a knife this inexpensive, it doesn't bother me if it doesn't. You know, a knife that's going to be beat on and used and abused anyway. So the important thing to me is mostly just that it runs and it's not rubbing. If it's not perfectly center, it's just like, okay, whatever. If it were, you know, like an expensive ZT or like a Hinderer that was having this problem, you know, then I'd be having words with somebody, but this really isn't going to bug me that much. Okay, so this thing is back to being fall shutty. We are still favoring the right side of the knife on the blade centering. I don't think there's any reason to continue to obsess about that with this particular knife. It is centered enough that it's not rubbing against the side of the liners, so I'm not really worried about it. And it is buttery smooth, which it was not. Like, listen to that. You don't hear anything. So this is a significant improvement in action over the original washers, which, to be honest with you, look really cheap. They might not even be metal. They might not even be encased in metal. I know the Skiff ones are ceramic bearings encased in phosphor bronze. So this was definitely a quality upgrade for this knife. I mean, that is so smooth and it is dead silent. And there's no side-to-side or up and down blade play, and it's fall shut. Like, what else can you ask for? So, there you have it. Kershaw Bel Air. You are in for a rough time if you're going to take this knife apart, but I did take it apart and I got it back together and everything is fine. It is back to being usable, and I didn't screw everything up like I did in the next video, which, like I said, was filmed while this one was waiting on these pliers. Let me, before we get out of here, I use on the blade LPS2. This is used in the aerospace maintenance industry as a lubricant for airplane mechanics who need to lubricate airplane parts. And I tend to use this on the blade because it leaves a kind of a, look at that, it leaves a really stubborn and slick sheen on it that doesn't like to come off. And so, I mean, I have to do this to knives I use. I do this periodically just to make sure that, you know, the knife isn't, you know, having too much exposure to corrosion too much exposure to corrosion. You know, with something like MagnaCut, S30V, S35VN, even 154CM, that's less of something you need to worry about, but it's still, you know, provides a good little bit of extra protection on the knife for if you're somewhere where you might be exposing your knife to a lot of corrosion. Okay. Well, there you have it. We got this knife back together, and it is fundamentally in better shape than it was when we started. What else can you ask for? I know that took a long time. I want to thank everybody for watching. Questions, comments, put them in the comment section of the video. Otherwise, until next time, this is Ben from Ben's Blades telling you, carry a knife everywhere you can. Everywhere you legally can. Let me make sure that I put that disclaimer in there. Everywhere you legally can, carry a blade. I'll see you next time.